Ndala, ndala, ndala. Welcome back to this mini series where we talk about how to deal with nightmares, this specific type of dreams that frighten us or scare us. Today, I want to talk about nightmares that are due to attacks, spiritual attacks, or energetical attacks. And to simplify things in these discussions, when I'm talking about spiritual attacks, I'm talking about attacks that are coming from the spirit world, more with different spirits and entities. And then when I will refer to energetical attacks, I'm going to be speaking about attacks that are specific coming from people, other people. For the first category, talking about spiritual attacks, how to recognize whether it is a spiritual or an energetical attack can be quite difficult, especially if you're not familiar with your dreams, if you don't pay attention to your dreams, and if you don't take the time to piece the things together in terms of what the dream is telling you, who you're seeing in the dreams, and whether there is a link between the dream itself and your material environment, your emotional and physical environment, and the people who are around you. So it may take you a little bit of time. Traditionally, you will go to another person, a medium, a traditional doctor, a traditional practitioner, and this person could, through divination or other tools, tell you specifically if it is a spiritual attack, an energetical attack, or if there's a person or an entity behind it and who it is. Now, if you don't have those tools handy or this access to those kind of people, there are nevertheless few things that you can do yourself to start training yourself in terms of recognizing those things. So the first thing when you're talking about a spiritual attack, an attack that's coming from a spirit, and it's very difficult for me to talk about that because there are so many different examples and so many different things that can happen. To narrow it down, you could be attacked by a spirit that lives in the place where you just moved in, that lives in the area or the town, or that moved in, that it could be a transition spirit, a spirit that was passing through. It could be a spirit that followed you. Now, for example, when you go and visit a cemetery, oftentimes I tell people if you're going to visit a cemetery, make sure you have some salt with you so that whatever is at the cemetery, whatever spirits is not going to follow you home, or it's less likely that it follows you home if you're well prepared. Uh, so just knowing that it could be any type of spirit, so there are things that you can do. First of all, sometimes when you have a nightmares and it may be from a spiritual source, the first thing is to research what happened in your apartment, in your home. It's very common that people who are very sensitive, you're moving into your home or an apartment, it sounds like a great deal, the rent is super cheap, or the house price was super low, or the rental of the house is super low, but it happens that there was a murder, somebody was killed, there was some, if it's not necessarily a death, related to your death, it may have been related to something else that was negative. People who had been molested in that home, it could be all kind of things that left a spiritual imprint, an energetical imprint in the house that is causing you to have nightmares. So here, the message behind the nightmare is just a manifestation to let you know individually that there's something wrong in the space where you're at, or that there's something wrong in the physical plane, or energetical or spiritual plane. And so having a nightmare for you should be something that should catch your attention in saying, okay, there's something here that I need to pay attention to, that I need to address. So sometimes just by knowing what happened in the place, you can start by cleansing your space. And depending on what you're dealing with, that could be sufficient. That could be sufficient enough for the nightmare to go away, for this person or that spirit and that energy to go somewhere else. Cleansing and protecting your space. And this is why it's often advocated when you move into a new place, before you move into it, you cleanse the whole place and you protect it. If you're a Christian, you know, you can bless it. Some people, when they're building their home, they will have verses from the Bible, from the Quran, from whatever sacred text or scripture that you want to protect it. You can also use salt. I mean, there's many, many things. I covered some of those methods in my courses called Sacred Spaces. But you can find a bunch of avenues on how to protect your space online. And always go to the most accessible method, and salt will be the first thing to go to. So basically, it's that you start by cleansing the space and see if that clears things up. And you first start by doing your research in terms of what happened to your space. If your space connected to something else, it may be that your building was built on a Indian cemetery or some other form of cemetery or graveyard. It may be that something happened in that building or in that space, and it could even have happened outside, but the spirit is coming within the building. So just being aware, researching on where you're living, what kind of place it is, and sometimes depending on where you live, that information is readily available if you go to the library or if you go to your local newspapers archive, you may find information. In other places, that information is less readily available. That means you have to take the step to go toward that information by speaking with neighbors, speaking with whoever is willing to give you some information about that particular place. But it's very important that you at least rule that out. If nothing had happened, then nothing happened, and that means it may be energetical or it may be something else. But at least if you can assess that element and then cleanse and protect your home no matter what, that would be a first start. So if the nightmare stopped, you may be ruling that out and saying it was related to that particular element. Now, on the energetical aspect of it, this is more negative energy that's coming from other people. So somebody may be attacking you on the energetical level, maybe trying to do some workings on you, trying to influence you, for example, and you have recurring nightmares. And depending on what is specific on the nightmare, sometimes within the nightmare itself, you may be shown what this person is trying to get from you. For example, if you're being shown as a puppet, somebody forcing you to do certain things, whatever you're forced to be doing may be what this other person wants. But this is particular and specific to the nightmare that you have. So this person could be behind the scenes trying to push you to do certain things that you don't want to do, and you start having nightmares because of that, because your body and your angels, your protectors are showing you that there's something that's not quite right, and they sometimes showing you the exact source. So in the nightmares, you may be able to see the person's faces and a clear vision of that person or of who it is. So be careful not to run with that information simply because people who are trying to attack you may take on the face of a friend, of a common friend, or of your parents, of your mother, so that you will not suspect who's truly behind it. So I've mentioned if you go to a psychic or a medium, that person may be able to tell you specifically who's behind that, regardless of what face you're seeing in the dream or the nightmare. But if you do see a specific face, sometimes it is your innate ability to be able to see through the veil and see whoever's trying to do workings on you. And the way you will confirm that is to having a confirmation outside of the dream world. Sometimes the confirmation can come with that same person meeting you, saying something smirk to you. It could be that same person asking you, "Oh, you don't look like you're sleeping too well," or saying something of the sort. Basically, they're trying to assert their power over you, trying to let you know that they're the one doing this. And they could be as blunt as that by telling you that they have the power to disrupt your sleep, that they can overpower you mentally or energetically, that they're stronger spiritually than you are, or whatever, what have you. And that's when the person is blunt enough to come and confront you or tell you that in your face. So you will know who it is, and then you can take the proper steps to protect you from this person. But sometimes this person is not going to tell you that directly. They may make few things here and there that you can pick up on, not because of the words necessarily that they're using, but because of the feeling that you have when they're speaking to you in that kind of way. And that could be a hint for you that it may be this person, no matter who you're seeing in the dream, that's doing something to you. And of course, the avenue that you can take is to protect yourself by cleansing your own body, cleansing yourself. Meaning you can take spiritual bath, and salt bath are a go-to. There's plenty of video in terms of how to take a salt bath, and don't be too complex about it. Take a bucket, some salt, and basically cleanse yourself with that. And sometimes even take it in the bath so that you actually can have the time to soak into the salt gets on all of your body. You can get even more elaborate with that by adding some protective herbs within the salt bath to strengthen your protection. And you can be as basic or as elaborate as you want to go. And this will show you that Once you do those cleansing and those protections, even as basic as they can be, and the nightmare stops or blocks this person, you can basically assume that, okay, this was the actual source. So the process of dealing with nightmares on your own is simply assessing where the source may be, taking some steps, and seeing if those steps resolve the nightmare that you have. Again, the common thread here is for you to understand that nightmares are not just a flimsy thing. It's actually a way for you to be aware that something is wrong, that something is going on, so that you can do something about it. Okay, so of course, if you have these kind of experiences in terms of spiritual attacks or energetical attacks or dealing with bad spirits and you want to share, just do it in the comment section. And of course, if you do have also questions or things you want me to go a little bit more in depth about, let me know as well. And I will see you in the next episode.